We want to be the most distributed perfume brand. If I'm talking from an Indian perspective, the most distributed perfume brand we already are.
One single thing in your entire journey. I know it's difficult to kind of do one, but if you could tell us one thing which has really stood out for you. What are the steps needed to be able to be an effective CEO?
One is called professional chemistry, and the other is personal chemistry. And both are very important at work. I think gone are the days where fragrance is about the other. Fragrance is here for self. First me, then you.
Welcome to Voice It with Karishma Shah.
Welcome to Voice It with Karishma Shah. Our guest for today is Mr. Saurav Bhattacharya. He is the president of Ajmal Sons, NHA Division India. His vision for the brand is robust and sound. Let's dive into the episode and understand from his own words his journey and the future for his work. Hello, Mr. Saurav.
Hi.
It is great to have you here today in this conversation. We're so excited to be doing this with you and with Ajmal. So today, I really want to understand, your own personal journey. Like we all have this flair when, we bring in a little bit of our own persona, our own personality to things. And I know that you have a great leadership, aura. And you also have this thing wherein you've been doing phenomenal work for so many big companies. So please tell us about your journey, the whole professional run that you've had and also your journey with Ajmal.
So I think I'll start with a very personal standpoint on this. My name is Saurav.
Yes.
I don't know if it was destined to be, but through my long journey, corporate journey, I've actually been associated with fragrance many a time. And Saurav means fragrance. So I don't know if my parents had thought through this. So after my early schooling in Kolkata and most of it through in Hyderabad, I actually I'm an engineer by background, electrical electronics engineer. And don't ask what an electrical electronics engineer is doing from in the context of selling fragrances. And then I'm a management graduate too. So at the end of the day, I think when you look at the journey, there are several parts to it. The first part would be, inculcation or education. And that's my first 12 years with levers. And I'm very proud to say that I've actually gone through a run with levers which probably no other leverite has. I started off in information technology way back in '93. I'm talking about an ERP solution that I was involved in. And today, many years later, when I run a business, that understanding of my first year of work is so very precious. The reason I'm saying so is that ERP gives you a full view of the organization, the processes. So as engineers, people would get into manufacturing, people would get into production, people would get into maintenance, engineering, sales or marketing, whatever. But here I was with a complete setup of understanding information technology as a whole. So that first year is what makes me today. I can, reassure myself that minus that 1 year, life could have been very different. From there, I did move on to implementation of information technology at a plant in Dharwad, which is in Karnataka. I then moved into an instrumentation role in quality walls in Nasik. So technically speaking, I have packed tea, I have manufactured frozen desserts and ice creams under quality walls, and I've also been responsible for manufacturing of instant coffee for the brand Brew. This is it is after this stint that I was sent to IIM Ahmedabad, and I was subsequently moved to sales and marketing. So my first stint was in Orissa. It's a long journey back, but I took up sales on a day when Orissa was devastated by the super cyclone. And everybody was like, what an area to get into, which is completely devastated. In 99-2000, there was this horrible super cyclone that happened. And I still remember my first sales meeting when I wrote on the board saying that, at 10% market share, we are wincing in agony. But think about the larger competitor who has a larger market share, what they must have. CNFAs, stock points were all marooned with water. So I always believe in baptism by fire, and I still remember the first day when at a port in Orissa called Paradeep, we were selling stocks on the street, with a lot of kambal and utensils, because that was the social side that had to come in. We were distributing to retailers, we were distributing medicines, but sales was about humanity, and that's what my first baptism by fire, when I say it is baptism by humanity as well.
Yes.
So my life actually started from there, understanding that there are people, there are emotions, but there is business at the end of the day. And from a 10% market share in about a year's time, we grew to 40% market share. And that is because I realized everybody around me were complaining. And I was very focused about this was the opportunity to get in.
Yes.
So what is very important in a business paradigm is to understand what can be done and not just why it can't happen. Many of the times you look at this word called focus, and I always ask people who work with me, what do you understand by focus? And people will tell me, sir, it's about what we need to get our attention on. So I said, no, focus is about what not to look at. The decision, the ability to be able to sift between what not to look at allows you to therefore pinpoint on the things that you actually need to do. So after, since I was moving from the manufacturing side to sales, and it's never happened. I don't know of another individual who's moved from manufacturing, maintenance, engineering to sales and marketing. So when I did, I was given the smallest area to handle, which was Orissa. We did phenomenally well in a situation where our company overall volumes had declined, but Orissa had gone up by almost 3-4 times. So I was propelled from the last rank in the class of Brook Bonders to one of the largest selling areas, which was Maharashtra. So I think that's where the upswing began. That's where the confidence came in that yes, you can do it. So the journey in Maharashtra, of course, meant that big bosses were, focused around, because every week the number that we do would have a significant bearing to the top line of the organization. So as a result of that, a lot of visibility on the work that you do, focus and visibility for the work that you as a professional do is of paramount importance, because if you're not visible, sorry to use the language, but nobody cares a shit about you,
True.
So from there, I moved into brand management. I was part of the Brook Bond management team. I worked on India's largest tea brand called Taza, from the activation side. So the marketing journey per se was achieved after almost 9 years of work, coming in from a very different background. So once into marketing, and in levers, the most coveted role is always in the brand management area, as in the marketing area. So in a way of sorts, it was the full cycle that I went through in terms of coming from information technology, manufacturing, maintenance, to sales, and then finally marketing and brand management.
You have great interpersonal skills. Just from the conversation that we're having, I can just kind of understand that, there is a very high involvement in people management, in interpersonal skills, to be able to understand people's emotional intelligence, right? Please tell us how this played a role in, from the beginning to now where you are. How important is it for everybody to understand these dynamics when working with other people, or just on a day-to-day basis?
I'm actually very glad you asked this. So I don't know whether interpersonal skills or leadership skills are innate, part of the DNA, or how much can you groom yourself towards it, because there's so many leadership programs, there's so many programs about influencing others and so on. But I do strongly believe a bit of it has to be genetic. You have to have the flair. I was the head boy of my school, because I would debate, I would do a whole lot of co-curricular activities, and I would play as well, serious cricket. but at the same time, academics was of paramount importance. So the reason I'm saying that, working through with others is, and you've kind of nailed it by asking the question, is that if you cannot work through with people, you can never be a successful professional.
Absolutely.
So I go back to one of my stints in Mysore factory, where I still remember, you are an electrical engineer.
Yeah.
You're an electrical instrumentation engineer, but the work that happens in an electrical department is known better to an electrical foreman, to an electrical ITI person, rather than an electrical engineer.
Yes.
So sometimes they could turn around and say, "Sir, aap bata do kaise karna hai."
Yes.
You understand?
Yes.
And you're like, "Oh, I don't know how to do this. So what if I'm an electrical engineer? I know the high level of it. I can help the circuitry out, but I don't know how the quick solution is."
Yes.
So I think that's the first thing that I realized, and sales was much easier after that. Sales is a little more generic, but I realized in that stint that unless you take your people along with you and they accept that you will stand for them and then you will lead by example, they will never stand. Because in sales, one of the things that people think, my favorite line is, sales is for fools. But for those of us who understand it, it's science.
Yeah.
So I've used this line again and again, saying every shop that you go to as a salesman, and it needs to be demonstrated. Every shop you go to is a nut munch. It's a drama.
Yes.
You go in somewhere by, talking to the shopkeeper saying, "Haan bhai sahab, kaise hai?" Somewhere you say, "Main to aapki dukaan mein aana hi nahi wala." That kind of a thing. That is the level of touch that you need to have with the shopkeeper. When the shopkeeper says, sir, aap kab aa rahe ho mere paas? That is the relationship. So I think independent of the profession that you do, whether it is technical, whether it is sales, of course, right now it's a more larger, business P&L role. So at any point of time, I think that there are two aspects of chemistry.
Yes.
One is called professional chemistry, and the other is personal chemistry. And both are very important at work. I really think that I can swing things at work more out of personal chemistry, because they would do it rather for their individual, because they trust that individual. So it doesn't come, it's a two-way process. It's a two-way respect process. You give some and you get back in return. It's a full circle. What you give is what comes back to you. So to answer your question, I do believe that leadership is something that is innate. It's part of your DNA, and you work in terms of manifesting it. You can't create it from scratch, but then you need to walk the talk to be able to practice it over and over and over again.
That's where the real job is, right?
That's the real job.
Yes.
So it does not mean that you only do it with your peer set, with your immediate reportees, but you need to do it with right up from your bosses down to the last management trainee.
Absolutely.
Who should be able to come and confide in you, and you should be able to hear them out. You should be able to give them a solution or guide them. Understand that everybody wants a hear, and probably 90% of the job gets done when you give them a hear. So I think the whole leadership process is collaborative. It's not a one-way traffic. You need to invest in significantly. You need to demonstrate by leading from the front, walking the talk. But last but not the least, empathy is very important. I need to feel for what you're going through. And very early in our career, we went through this grid which talks about an X and a Y axis of concern for people and concern for results. So if you have over concern for people, the results will never get delivered. Or if you are a shark and you have only concern for results, then no concern for people, people will not stand by you. So the ultimate thing is about the 9-9, which is the perfect management of the balance between concern for results and concern for people. That to me
is brilliant. It is brilliant how you mentioned that, because when we speak to so many head honcho entrepreneurs, when I personally speak to so many of them, we kind of realize that even when we're talking about something where we see an aptitude for something, right? We'll always notice that the really dominant ones that are there, or the ones that are really very aggressive also, they're always considered as leaders. But we're not living in those kinds of times anymore, and those kinds of attitudes cannot survive anymore. You said this beautiful thing about infusing empathy. Like, empathy to me is something so important in every aspect that you do, Actually, when I was walking in over here, I read this beautiful thing and it's highlighted really nicely over there where you've mentioned crafting memories. And I feel like, with a brand as big as Ajmal, right? And to be able to create that kind of an emotional connect also, I strongly believe that today's time and today's date, if we want the kind of human connection that is there for sales, for leadership, for, even creation of anything that we want, even a product creation, to infuse empathy in that is to be able to tell people that we care. The conscious movement also today about everything, right?
Absolutely.
Is about this fact that we're infusing empathy over here.
Absolutely.
If we don't go down the lane of infusing, the concern, care, and the, overall love to be able to, then forward it in some way or the other. It could be in a way where, we're designing a product in a nice way. We're creating this entire campaign wherein, people can resonate with it. I remember you were telling me about this beautiful story about how with all the brilliant work that you've done with Ajmal, you wanted to create this beautiful connect and you wanted to be able to reach out to more people. Please tell us about that. I would love for everybody to listen to your story about, the crafting memories, the aspect of connecting to the more easygoing person.
So I'll dial it up in sequence. I mean, the empathy part of it, from where we, join the dots. It starts from the top.
Yeah.
Our CEO, who's also the chairman of the board, he is so specific in terms of even getting into the details of when we travel into Dubai, what our food preferences are.
Yes.
And I'm going to start from there because there are small young girls here who go in who only eat fish, okay, or prawns, and he will ensure that they are served that food.
Yes.
So what do we learn from there? When the man at the top is so pinpointed in terms of satisfying what is extremely desirable for you, and food is very important for all of us.
It is.
It translates that into the work we do.
Yes. It does.
It translates that completely into the work we do.
Absolutely.
So when we see him doing that, we feel that, what about our consumers? Yeah? In this office, if there are 100 people, 80 of them are 27 years or lesser by age.
Yeah.
Fragrance, historically, has been a gifted item only.
Yes.
People who are 30 plus, 35 plus would tell you that we always got perfumes as gifts.
Yeah.
Our relatives traveled, or we traveled, and we bought perfumes somewhere in duty free. But did you actually shop for that fragrance $1,000 and above in the last 1 year? 1 out of 10 people will tell you yes.
Yeah.
That is the starting point.
Yeah.
So as I was saying that, the starting point is very few people are actually able to buy into fragrance. It's like selling shoes in a market where people don't use shoes or refrigerators or the Eskimos. Likewise, when consumption is so low, there lies the opportunity.
Yeah.
And at Ajmal, we believe that we are the only brand here, the only homegrown brand, which does the farm to the fragrance, which is understanding of the product, the ingredient, right up to the final delivery, including the consumer relationships. The reason that is very important is because we are now in a position that we are able to cater to that 25-year-old millennial and Gen Z who otherwise would not buy a fragrance.
Yeah.
Yeah, there are deodorants in the market and a plethora of them and plethora of brands, but I think where we at Ajmal are very focused on is building the perfume category.
Yes.
And the reason why we are focused around that is we believe that that perfume as a category is not a lifestyle segment anymore.
Yeah.
It's a necessity. It's an every moment necessity.
Yes.
The reason I say so is also probably influenced by COVID. And when we look at markets like US, for example, well-being, your own feeling,
Yes.
and people have been working from home.
Yes.
Initially, when people started working from home, they used to turn up in meetings in pajamas. Then they realized that they would put on a shirt, but their bottoms may not. But then people started dressing up. They realized this is the way of life.
Yes.
I dress up and go to office, but I may as well dress up and sit on my Zoom meeting or my Microsoft Teams meeting or whatever they are.
Yes.
The reason it's important is that people then realize that this is going to be the way of life. So you need to turn up well. And I always think that, there are 3 words which are very dear to my heart. The first thing is you need to look good. Okay, which means the way you dress, the way you do up your hair and stuff and whatever, make yourself presentable. So looking good is critical.
Yes.
Nobody likes to look at somebody who's disabled, who's not turned up well.
Yes.
The second aspect of it is you need to smell good. And smell good is not vis-a-vis one another, it's for my own self first.
Yes.
If I smell good, I feel confident. Yeah. And for sure, everyone in the office wants to smell good because at the end of the day, they feel confident.
Yeah.
But then when you marry look good and marry that with smells good, what do you get?
Yeah.
You get feel good.
Oh, fantastic. Yes.
Yeah. So when you look good and you smell good, you feel good. And that's essential for success. Success for what? Success in terms of delivery, success in terms of confidence. When you say, wow, you're such a nice personality, you're not actually saying you're looking awesome. You're actually saying you're looking good, you're feeling good, you're smelling good.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So I think it's an encompass. It's a full package in terms of the way we look at it. So perfume moving on from just being a lifestyle category into a daily moment-based necessity is critical. Yeah. So I want this 25-year-old, this 27-year-old, when they leave from home, that they are able to dab. They travel through public transport. Not all of them have cars.
Yeah.
They come in, there's a lot of heat and sweat. So when they come in, they need to kind of spruce up.
Yeah.
So they need another dash through the day that they are working. They kind of, get tired. They need to rejuvenate. They need something that kind of, again, re-energizes them.
Yeah.
They leave from work. They go back home. They shower.
Yeah.
Probably sitting down for dinner. They need to feel fresh again. They need to feel, good and not just tired.
Yeah.
Or they want to go out, step out with friends for an evening gathering. At every moment, therefore, what you establish is you need to be able to look, feel and smell good.
Yes.
And to be able to do that, fragrance plays a very, very critical role.
Yes.
I think gone are the days where fragrance is about the other.
Yeah.
Fragrance is here for self. First me, then you.
Absolutely. I love the way that you've just put it out right now, because I feel like, even when we speak about well-being, when we speak about, holistic wellness also, right?
Right.
There is an extensive research in the Chinese medicine, in our own Ayurveda, that focuses so much on aromatherapy.
Absolutely.
And aromatherapy is the same thing as our fragrances,
Absolutely. It kind of invigorates your senses.
Yes.
It makes you feel better from within.
Yes, yes. And the way that you mentioned that, if you personally feel good, how we speak about that, if your health is good, you're going to keep everybody else healthy around you, because you become a role model, or you become somebody who's, in that spirit to be able to then pass it on.
Absolutely.
The same way, I feel like I love this aspect where you mentioned that, if you are feeling good yourself, it's a domino effect.
Yeah, it's a domino.
And then that confidence kind
it's
of
something that radiates out, a very small analogy, but when we fly in the plane, they actually say when the cabin pressure drops, oxygen masks will fall.
Yeah.
And I always use that as a management reference. First help yourself, then help others.
Yes.
So if you're not in a position to help yourself, if you're not looking, feeling and smelling good, you cannot train somebody to look, feel and smell good.
Yes.
So to the point of how we are actually incubating a larger audience into this is, we have now, when we started off, 80-90% of what we used to sell as part of the Ajmal portfolio would come in from Dubai.
Yeah.
Gradually we started as part of Atmanirbharta, as part of all the restrictions that came in with COVID.
Yeah.
Or the other way of looking at restrictions is opportunities. We started manufacturing significantly in India, and that gave us a cost advantage as well.
Okay.
So today, I'm happy to say that you can have an Ajmal fragrance at the price point of 500, 700, a body mist at 400, 450,
Yes.
going up to 1,000. And that to a youngster who's making 30,000 bucks a month is affordable. It's possible. So the individual could use a fragrance to start off, to go back to the daily curriculum I talked about, use a fragrance to in the morning, a body mist here during office hours to top up, maybe a fragrance in the evening, a fragrance for party wear. So you can have a bouquet of your looking, feeling and smelling good in your small, and the other thing that's very important is backpacking is very important with the millennials and the Gen Zs.
True that, yes.
If your stuff doesn't fit in, into a small kit, then it's not going to happen. It's big bottles and big stuff is not going to move.
No.
People want, they want to spend 200 bucks, 300 bucks, get in small samples. So we do a lot of testers, we do a lot of these gift packs, we do a lot of these assortment, small 20 mls. We've launched 20 mls in a huge way. And so you would rather carry 520 mls. A young lady would want to carry 520 mls rather than one single reference of 100 ml.
Yes.
So so one is lowering the entry barrier. The second is making the product more accessible. So starting off from negligible coverage in the last 4 years, we've nearly come to 5,000 points of sale. So that's the physical online part of the sale, but that's kind of engulfed by the e-commerce. 40% of our sales comes from e-commerce, and I would not hate to reveal that on, let's say, the leading marketplaces, the B2B2Cs of Amazon, Flipkart, Myntra, and so on. In the perfumery segment of 1,000 bucks and above, we would be number one. And we've come from a no place to being where we are. That's because we are able to make the product relevant to every different types of consumers. And when I'm saying the millennials and the TGs, they are also the mature set who are buying our products, the classics like the Blue, the Aurums, the Aristocrats, which are 2,500 and upwards. I mean, Ajmal, if you go and see in Dubai, there's significant price points. It's an entry-level luxury brand, if not a luxury brand. So I think it's the ability of one brand to straddle across multiple price points and cater to the consumer at an arm's length of desire.
So Mr. Saurav, tell me one thing. You've told us these innovations that you brought in, right? I'm sure, with your arrival, all the segments that you just mentioned right now, like from creating a smaller, pocket size, pricing, size, and also, the affordability factor, right? I'm sure when you entered, there must have been a lot of challenges for you as the president, as a CEO, as managing everything. Please guide us through the journey of, what are the steps needed to be able to be an effective CEO?
So I think there are two important aspects that need to be highlighted. The first is the DNA of the organization. I gave you the example of my CEO and chairman from a food perspective, that if he satisfies the food requirement of even a management trainee, then the management trainee knows, leave alone the seniors, how that needs to translate in terms of consumer service, right? So it's just not him. I think the DNA of Ajmal, all the members of the family. So I would specifically want to highlight about a gentleman called Abdullah Ajmal, who is my boss. He's the eldest of the third generation. So I think right from the very first day, and I'll bring in a small term. You asked me this question, what helps? All of this helps, and I'll explain how. He is a couple of years younger to me by age, and he's the promoter. He calls me Dada. And one is calling Dada, the other is giving that respect as a Dada, as an elder brother. So I think one of the reasons we've been able to manifest the NHA belief into reality is Abdullah Ajmal. And the reason I say so is because we, in a manner of sorts, he is the creative person and I'm the business guy. So in several of my professional journeys, I've worked closely with promoters, and one of the observations that I've had is there are two types of relationships possible. One is complementing and the other is supplementing. What do you mean by supplementing is that the promoter boss knows everything. And no matter however good you are in whichever industry you come from, you come in below and you're always only supplementing but never meeting up to the full standard and the requirement of the guy at the top, because he knows it all. Either he believes he knows it all or he really knows it all. It happens. Here is a unique case where it's not supplementing, but it's complementing. So we are, the flip-flop in terms of capabilities, in terms of the way we appreciate each other's work. Every single nugget that has happened here is, I think, because of the complemented effort of the two of us. So to walk away with any kind of credit and say that, I have done this would be foolish. So he is a maverick in terms of ideas. He proposes an idea. He has the larger thoughts. And I would question him, I would quiz him. And once I convince myself, I would get down into executing it to the best possible extent. In life and management, we always talk about a zone of familiarity and a zone of ambiguity. The area we always, both of us, thrive in is on the zone of ambiguity, something that is not seen. This office is our dream, it's our baby. We started off with a 400 square feet office, 400 square feet warehouse, probably 1,000 square feet office 4 years ago. Today, our warehousing capabilities would be about 25,000 square feet, 60 times. Offices have grown, and we are looking at rapidly expanding. Now, in this journey, one of the things that is very important to understand is that he taught me this whole thing is, Dada, we're going to treat this as a startup. Ajmal is a big company. Why would you think that we are a startup? So this division was incubated as a startup backed by the evangelist Ajmal. Right? So the mentality with which we work is, we do not question people for what time they come in and what time they go. Because everybody here carries 2 or 3 jobs on their shoulders. They're going home only when they know that they have achieved the milestones for the day. No is not an answer. And it goes on from a management trainee to a head of the department. Every individual here is not only performing their function, but they are supporting somebody. Like, for example, my head of marketing is less on marketing today, more on strategy and business development. My head of e-commerce doubles up not only for the area that is here, but is also supporting the US business, global e-commerce, and another Southeast Asian market. So every individual is moving the needle up. So we call them the Shark Tank. And below them, the next in line to the HODs are the actual people who deliver for us. They are the budding sharks. The efficacy of the budding shark is what allows the Shark Tank to deliver the larger objectives.
Absolutely.
So one of the things that is very important is delegation with power. They are misused words. Power and delegation at a standalone basis are very dangerous. I think power needs to be at the bottom. The more power is there at the bottom, the more efficacy you see in business results. When I go to the market, and right from my Levers days, Raymond days, people would say, "Aap aaye ho, aaj aapke liye kya scheme? Hamare liye kya scheme?" Because you're the boss who's come. And my answer always used to be, he is the final authority, pointing to my sales officer or my area sales manager. He is the final authority. Mere paas kuch nahi hai. He knows it all. Never take away the power of your subordinates. Believe that they are the ones who run the show. When they come to you for guidance, give them the guidance, empower them. But they have to be given delegation with power. So I think one of the key mantras that we've been able to achieve is power at the bottom, and the work being supervised from the top. But the real work happens through that core community who believe, who know, who understand the results rest on their shoulders. They can't come and say, "I'm only 2 years of experience." No, it doesn't work. Another important aspect is celebration. So even yesterday, there was a small celebration. We call it jalebi moments. Just a small sweet, but a jalebi moment. So every small win, we have a town hall. People come in. We announce what has happened. And everybody gets to eat jalebi. Many a times we wait for, you talked about the dictatorial way of earlier working, boss, subordinate, it's a flat structure. True. So today, we believe that a person can progress faster. We in fact have a management trainee program which we call accelerated management program. Yeah. So there are people here who've been with us for 2-3 years who are literally running a department. Yeah. So they would come in and they would actually say, I struck this, and everybody gets together and celebrates. So it's about the book, I don't know if you've read Fish. There's a young boy who goes to the fish market. Yeah. And every day he goes to the fish market. So the mom asks, what do you do going to the fish market? So the boy said, I don't know, but there is something about the fish market. Yeah. They do this mundane thing about getting the fish, cutting the fish, selling it. Yeah. But when they've passed the fish, every aspect of their work is celebration. Here comes the shoal, here comes the mackerel. Yeah. Hey, catch it, man. You don't have kid gloves on. The expression. Yes. The way they treat their everyday work life is very, very important. Yeah. In fact, Abdullah's brother, Asad, who heads supply chain for us, when in one of his early visits when he came down, he said nobody at NHA works. So there was a pregnant pause in the entire town hall. He said that's because none of us work at home, right? Yeah. We just do our work in a manner. That's our responsibility. Yes. So, that's how it is. So you don't work at home, you do your chores because it's your home. Yes. So NHA, the way I think Abdullah and I have imbibed it, groomed it, supported it at every stage is it's home. Yes. So we tell people that if you feel it's not home, carry on. We have no hard feelings. Yes. The day you miss out on two things, the fact that your learning has stopped or the feeling that this is not, we treat every individual as an entrepreneur. Yes. And they are responsible for their P&L. Every individual, right down to the warehouse person, you will actually go and see that on the board is the KRA, the key result area. Yeah. And our appraisal process is entirely transparent. Like if we were colleagues, the first person to make the KRA for next year is me. Yeah. So as we speak for 2023, with Abdullah, I have my KRA agreed upon. Yeah. There will be final tweaks that we go on. November is the board meeting, but I present my KRA at the board. Yes. And once it comes back approved, I disseminate it to my HODs in the next 10 days. Yes. And they to their team members. So on 31st of December, every individual in the organization has their KRA articulated in terms of quarter-wise milestones, including support functions, who do not have support lines there, but they are working on something that is quantifiable and measurable. Yes. So to measure that, we actually have an automated system, part of our ERP called a performance management system, which we called as BEST, which is breaching excellence through sustained tracking. So the results are published every month. Mm-hmm. The results are for the last person in the organization to be able to see even the top guys. Everybody can see everybody's performance. Yeah. There's a scorecard on the table. Yeah. So it's not shameful to say I'm at 80% because it's there on my board. Everybody can see it, right? Yeah. So I think what is very important is that nobody is God. Yeah. 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 Even as the senior most, I'm willing to be evaluated. Yeah. And I'm willing for my performance to be questioned. I'm willing to say, can you help me do my job better? Yeah. That's the dialogue. It's not about telling you, because you're my subordinate and you report to me, how will you do better? You can also help me and do better because your performance can affect mine. Yes. So that is the give and take, the method that we work. So this culture here, Otherwise, I mean, just like the way I gave the CEO's example of food, my first message of the morning was to the HODs. We're planning a HOD lunch where we want to have a South Indian meal today and about a Bengali meal tomorrow, because this is the lead up to the Diwali weekend. Trust me, this is the busiest time at work.
Yes.
So when I'm saying food, I'm not trying to digress away and say we're getting into casual matters. Food is a method of bonding because we need to do some heavy lifting leading on to Diwali.
Yes.
So what is seen, what is understood, it is more about the fact that we want to be closer to people. The personal chemistry has to be so strong that the person delivers not just because it's Ajmal, because it's we the people.
Yes. You've created such a brilliant ecosystem over here, actually. With all the things that you just told me right now, it's not even a culture, it's actually an entire ecosystem.
Yeah, it is.
And there's so much to learn from it, I feel like every aspect, from the preferences of food, to be able to understand the emotions of the colleagues, to be able to reward them also in a way where there is internal satisfaction. It's not just something which
Can I interrupt you for a bit?
Sure.
Yesterday afternoon, in fact, we have a Sindhi colleague called Shweta Keval Ramani. It's her birthday today. So she, would you believe that she fed 15 of us pani puris? Homemade 4 varieties. The reason I'm saying again, food is a very important ingredient, is because she knows very clearly at the end of the day that delivery, I mean, she is coming for a particular new launch that we're going to do next year.
Yes.
And when she came in on the very first day, I asked her, where are your salaries going to come from? Look at the dialogue. I mean, you've come in, launches next year. Where is the salary going to come from? Of course, I know where the salary is going to come from, but no free lunch. I mean, we tell every colleague here that if you're not driving top line or you're not saving on overheads, we don't need you. It's as polite as that, or as impolite as you may call it. If you cannot do top line or you cannot save on costs or overheads, we don't need you here. You're not part of the family, right? It's like what the homemaker does, right? The homemaker does the most efficient work in the least possible expense, managing an ecosystem. You use the word ecosystem. So I'm playing back to what we see at home. How is it any different from home? So she actually said, you know what, I'm going to drive a certain aspect of business, which is corporate and institutional sales. And she has driven something which is the most profitable channel for us amongst the multi-channels that we have. So yesterday rather, she said, I mean, you can have people doing a potluck, you can have people doing multiple things, but think of any incident that you've heard that there is a fuchka wala in the office and trust me, I mean, she's put in entire effort on Sunday to actually feed 15 of us with different ragadas and masala. And so I think that simple action that she demonstrated is an act of defiance, positive defiance. It's an act of saying everything is possible. And that is what translates into work. So somebody comes up and says, okay, that's steep. Let's see how we do it, not why it can't be done. Sorry, I interrupted, but I just thought that...
No, that is brilliant. Actually, thank you for actually sharing that. I also feel like that's an essence where a colleague or anybody who's working in the same ecosystem also has that kind of solution mindset. Where you even if it could be something out of just a fun statement, or it could be something which you seriously mean, but you've put out something on the table and they've not been threatened by it, or they've not been maybe submissive about it. They've kind of stepped up and they've told you that, what, we'll find a solution to this.
Absolutely.
And that's the kind of, powerful attitude which you also imbibe in your own team when you have that kind of an, mindset.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Please tell us about the vision and mission that you have for Ajmal, all the things that you're doing right now. How do you see yourself doing much more than this, and what are the things in the next 5 years?
You had to ask me this, right? Vision and mission. Vision is very simple. We want to be the most distributed perfume brand. If I'm talking from an Indian perspective, the most distributed perfume brand we already are.
Yes.
Without a doubt. but we want to go 10x over the next 5 years. Yes. And this will happen not just through the perfume industry, but also in terms of extension products that we will do across adjacencies. It's a bit premature to talk about it. Possibly get into related spaces, but drive our coverage about 10x up in the next 5 years.
Yes.
That's broadly the vision. Putting a number to it is not what we do, because our milestone very clearly is about driving coverage, both in terms of width and depth.
Yeah.
And our focus is to penetrate into the class 1 cities and class 2 cities. And gradually, I think over a 5 to 10 year period, we will even go lower. Our mission is twofold. Very simply put, it has two sets of things that are very important to us. One is our own people,
yes,
and the second is consumers.
Yes.
So the first mission that we have is we want, and you talked about the word ecosystem, we want to be known not just in India, but to begin with in India, one of the greatest places to work.
Yes.
From Abdullah and I think if we achieve that, that would be a huge feather in our cap. Numbers, business, all of that will follow.
Yeah.
But we want to create a work culture, a work environment where everybody is an entrepreneur. Everybody shoulders a responsibility of the P&L. Everybody understands the efficacy of development. Everybody is a co-owner.
Yeah.
Everybody is an Ajmalite. I must share this with you that we have this rewards and recognition program where even through COVID, we would have this on Zoom. And, at the end of it, if an individual called, let's say, Siddhi, or an individual called Amit, or an individual called Nilendu is given a Top Gun, which is the best performance for the month, then there are several of them. Abdullah would say, congratulations, Siddhi Ajmal. Yeah. Congratulations, Nilendu Ajmal. Congratulations, Amit Ajmal, Vasu Ajmal.
Yes.
The surname being tagged there of Ajmal gives you the recognition that your work is so unparalleled that we feel that you work like an entrepreneur.
Yes.
So the first thing about mission is about a great place to work, an empowered system where power lies in the belly of and not at the head. Yeah. Power at the head is very bad.
Yes.
The second aspect, needless to say, is consumer. From a brand perspective, there is something called a brand loyalty pyramid.
Yes.
The first at the base of it is actually what we say is creating availability. First is make the product available.
Yeah.
Once you make it available, you need to ensure that the product is relevant. If it's available and if it's relevant, then there is a consideration to buy.
Yes.
If there is a consideration to buy, there is a purchase.
Yes.
That's the 4 legs. Yes. The last is the most important. So our mission would be on the last part, which is about creating bonding, creating referral.
Yes.
Every time I interact with you, no matter whoever you are, as an Ajmalite, for me, you must go back and say, wow, I felt good interacting with him. I felt good working with him. So if it's a vendor, if it's a supplier, if it's a partner, if it's a consumer, or if it's an employee.
Yes.
That experience has to be that you go back and refer, and the power of referral is stronger than any marketing or branding exercise there is.
I agree.
So I think the consumer experience that we want to create is it's very different from the way most corporates do. We drive a significant amount of social media activation. We recently did this for the Navratri. We did the Navrang. Consumers actually write back and say, hey man, you guys are crazy with the kind of gifts that you give on a daily basis.
Yes.
You participate, you actually get into an activity and interaction. So, our social media indices have grown at a very, very, very rapid proportion.
Yes.
We spend a minuscule amount of money on marketing, but trust me, every penny is worth a million.
Yes.
So to answer your question on vision to be the most accepted and distributed brand, perfumery brand in the country.
Yes.
And mission, two sets, our own people, best place to work, great place to work, an ecosystem that is unparalleled, consumer, an experience that is unparalleled.
This is brilliant. This is just fantastic. I feel like, just listening to you and the kind of things that you mentioned, it is very, very rare in a scenario like today wherein, you're heading an entire, ecosystem. It's not even a department anymore. As you mentioned, it's an ecosystem. And you've come to this place where, you're telling somebody that, the brand is okay, the products are okay, but what, people really matter.
Absolutely.
And this is beyond amazing. For a leader to be able to say this is such a huge example for everybody else who also kind of, is aspiring to be a leader or even come to that space. So I feel like, Mr. Saurav, congratulations for this. I feel like the best thing that, you can actually give somebody else is that kind of importance, that kind of, space to be able to be seen. And I strongly feel, just by talking to you today, that everybody in your department, everybody in, your ecosystem definitely feels seen and heard and respected with the kind of leadership qualities that you have. I mean, that is just brilliant.
I think it's a blessing. It's a concatenation of two things. It's blessings of the Almighty, a lot of love and support by the elders.
Yes.
More importantly, from the family, Ajmal family.
Yes.
I think they kind of exude that warmth that translates into work.
Yes.
So if I have one set of people to thank, I would have to thank the CEO, Mr. Amiruddin Ajmal,
yes,
Abdullah,
yes,
because what we demonstrate here at NHA is a flow through of what comes naturally to us.
Yes.
I mean, how selfish can you be that you are getting, they give you more. You're getting, they give you more.
Yeah.
At some stage you will pass on, right?
Yeah.
And you demonstrate what they're demonstrating to you.
Yeah.
So I think it's very natural,
yes,
the way it's happened.
Yes.
Because we are not here for cutthroat competition. We are very, we call our leaders Shark Tank. So you know that there is shark, there's teeth,
yeah,
and they can bite.
Yeah.
But there is a humanity side of it because everyone here is running their show.
Yes.
It's the larger Ajmal show, but it's individually their show.
Yes.
So I think, it's very, very important. It's a different way of looking at the way work culture is.
Yes.
And for us, it's very important to understand the pulse of youngsters, understand that they are not here for the money. They are here to learn, yes, every single day,
yes,
into work. I mean, through COVID, I used to have young people calling me and saying, "Sir, can we just open office for one day? Please, can we open office for one day?" And, I would say that, there are restrictions. One day, just one day.
Yeah.
And finally, when the day we opened, it seemed like, people had been separated out. People met and the warmth and the enthusiasm was infectious.
Yes.
So I think it needs a lot of blessings to be able to get there.
It is. I feel like even with the kind of things that you said right now, I always say this one thing, that when your glass is full, it's very easy for you to pour. But if you yourself don't fill in the glass, and it's half empty, how much will you give and how much will you retain? So I feel like with you and the kind of work that you're doing,
beautifully said. I love what you said. Yeah.
Your glass is always full and you're always filling other people. And I feel that's such a great example for any single person to follow. Entrepreneur, worker, creator, anybody. But I really feel that all these pearls of wisdom that you've given us, one last thing I would like to ask you is that there are a lot of people like me today, I'm in awe and I'm inspired by all the things that you've told. And there are so many other young entrepreneurs, young blood that wants to know if there's one message, one single thing in your entire journey. I know it's difficult to kind of do one, but if you could tell us one thing which has really stood out for you and which could help other people to also onward their journey.
So there is one thing.
Yeah.
And I'll give a personal example. I am, as I mentioned, in my professional journey through, Levers, Raymond, Visa, and subsequent jobs in the space of across industries, including jewelry. Understanding product, understanding business, understanding marketing, and all of that is very important.
Yeah.
But one thing that differentiates chalk from cheese is to understand dhanda, business.
Yeah.
So anybody who aspires to become an entrepreneur needs to understand one thing, which is the P&L. If you get too carried away by saying that, I'll build the brand first and then I'll kind of leverage, and There is no tomorrow.
Yeah.
It is today.
Yes.
Your balance sheet, your P&L shows today.
Yeah.
So to anybody, irrespective of the function that you come from, and for example, many designers I meet, they are so, creative. They are so wishful in terms of all the changes that they want to make.
Yeah.
But somewhere I feel that they miss out on the efficacy of translating that into a survivable business.
Yes.
If a business is not well understood on day one, then it will never be understood on day two. So one is the whole thing about, you're building valuation. That's a separate cup of tea.
Yeah.
But if your business is not about building valuation only, but about creating an opportunity which is sustainable, you, as an individual, as a professional, need to understand P&L on day one. Doesn't matter what function, whether you're a research and development, you're legal, you're a packer, you're any form of business.
Yeah.
If you don't understand Dhanda, if you don't understand where is my sales coming from, how can I increase it, where are my costs, what is driving my cost and how can I minimize it, and therefore the entire game is about EBITDA. So to answer your question in one word, if you don't understand your P&L, you don't stand a chance.
Brilliant. After all these beautiful pearls of wisdom that you have given us, I feel like this one is so important, that also when you mentioned before that you don't have to really have a very strong side or a very soft side. It could be a beautiful balance of it, and that understanding business also is a very beautiful balance of yin and yang, because you'll have to use that over there.
Absolutely.
And the last thing, which I think everybody wants to know now, is that what is your favorite perfume and which one do you use?
I wish you hadn't asked me that, because if you have a mom with 10 children, it's a very patent question that is often asked: who's your favorite child?
Yeah.
And the mom would never answer that, right?
Yeah.
So likewise, I have every produce of ours is our favorite, is my personal favorite, because they've gone through a significant amount of gestation, development to come to where they are. I'll share this candidly with you that I wear fragrances which are not only just launched, but also the ones, right now the fragrance I'm wearing is something which is under development. So between me and Abdullah and several others, we wear fragrances that are going to come maybe a year later. So it's very important to understand that there are moods for different occasion, there are fragrances for different occasion, and therefore we have preferences which are very differentiated. But if I am to name a few, our masterpieces such as Aristocrat for evening occasions, or something which is more musky for daily occasions, or even, let's say an Evoque for him, I use for office. There are fragrances which are of the nature of blue, which I use for a lot of outdoor. So I'm a hardcore Ajmal fan, well before even if I joined Ajmal. But I really think that there are a plethora of fragrances that we work on. So it's just not a single child answer. It's a multitude, but yes. There are a whole host of fragrances from a consumer standpoint that could fit different sets of consumers.
Absolutely.
But there's only one message that I'd want to give consumers. Do not use fragrances on your clothing. Fragrances need to be used at pulse points, which are here, which are your wrists, which are your sweat points basically, and even for girls wearing dresses, actually behind your knees. If you want to see the real bloom of your fragrance, you need to use it on the skin, on the pulse points, and you see the best efficacy. Fragrance, like the 5 fingers of a palm, are not the same. What works good for you may not work equally well on me, because we all have a different sebaceous sweat rate. So I think that's where I would indulge in testing a lot of fragrances and see what works best. Never get carried away just by the top note.
Yeah.
It's the note that stays on you.
Yeah.
It's the note that works with you.
Yeah.
Is actually the real fragrance.
Yes.
In addition to your own
Yes.
fragrance of personality.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you so much for that advice as well. It's going to help so many people understand their perfumes better.
Sure.
Thank you. Mr. Saurav, it's been brilliant and it's been just so inspiring to be able to speak to you today, get these anecdotes from you, about how you've had a, prosperous journey. So from my side and from the team, I'm just wishing you a lot of power ahead and, lots of good wishes and good vibes from our side. Thank you so much for doing this today.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure.